Welcome to History Stories Dose, one story 10 parts, subscribe now.
January 1547. A thick blanket of snow covers the English countryside, bringing an eerie silence to the Palace of Whitehall. Behind those stone walls, one of the most powerful kings in European history is dying. The constant agony from infected leg ulcers has kept Henry VIII trapped in his bed, beyond the help of England's finest doctors. On January 28, 1547, at the age of 55, Henry breathes his last, closing out a massive 38-year reign. Within hours, news of his passing ripples outward from the palace. The loss of such a dominant figure, the only king most of his subjects had ever known, leaves the country facing an uncertain, silent void. During his decades in power, Henry had commanded armies, severed the nation's ties to the Catholic Church, and executed thousands of people, including his closest advisors and two of his own queens. Every execution and every religious upheaval was driven by a single, all-consuming obsession: securing a male heir. Now, the direct result of that lifelong pursuit inherits the crown, a 9-year-old boy named Edward VI. This child was the prize Henry had sacrificed everything to obtain, but as we'll see, his ascension did little to guarantee the safety of the kingdom. Because Edward was just a child, he possessed the title of king, but not the power. The actual governing fell to a council of ambitious nobles who ruled in his name. This timeline shows how the council used the boy's authority to move the nation further from its religious roots. Notice the sharp divergence from Catholic traditions as they stripped churches of their ornaments and rewrote the prayer books. The plan for a stable male succession collapsed almost immediately. In 1553, after 6 years on the throne, Edward died of illness at 15 years old. The male heir Henry had bankrupted his soul to produce was gone, and the kingdom was once again thrown into a struggle for the crown. The crown then fell to Henry's eldest daughter, Mary I, who immediately set the nation on a different trajectory. Mary was a staunch Catholic who spent her reign aggressively dismantling her half-brother's Protestant policies to return England to the Roman faith. She ordered the execution of hundreds of Protestants, burning dissenters at the stake and earning the terrifying historical nickname Bloody Mary. Yet her time on the throne was short. Mary died in 1558, just 5 years after she began her campaign to reverse the Reformation. In the 11 years since Henry's death, England had been pulled in two opposite directions. The nation was reeling from religious whiplash, and the Tudor legacy was hanging by a thread. With Mary gone, the crown passed to the last expected candidate, a young woman whom many political insiders had long dismissed. Elizabeth was the child Henry had once considered a disappointment, simply because she was born a girl. Elizabeth broke the cycle of chaos. She held the throne for 44 years, managing to steady a nation that had been reeling for a decade. During her rule, England defeated the Spanish Armada, explored new lands, and fostered a surge in literature and the arts that defined her time on the throne as a golden age. Elizabeth's success proved that the kingdom's stability could come from the very source her father had spent his life trying to avoid. The Tudor story concludes with a sharp irony. The lasting peace Henry spent his life chasing through a male heir finally arrived through the daughter he once considered a failure. Henry never lived to see it, but the world Elizabeth mastered was built upon the wreckage and the reforms of his own making. Was Henry a visionary who broke England's centuries-old bond with Rome to rebuild the monarchy? Or does the decade of suffering that followed his death prove he was a ruthless tyrant who nearly destroyed his country for a son that couldn't save it? The debate remains open.